Okay, so we will start with passport.js. Then once I show you some basic working, after that we will start working on our PSC. Okay, just give me a second. I'm getting a call. Okay, now tomorrow will not be deployment. We will have, yeah, PSC will not be complete within the time, today's time. So we will go slowly and complete the PSC till tomorrow. We have deployment on Friday. Okay, clear? Cool. So we are going to work with this library for now. So PSC is problem solving class, and in that we will build the whole full stack application. And yeah, we will also be working on front end to implement all the APIs that we need, right? Friday, yes, Friday will be our last lecture. Okay, cool. So I'm going to just delete this and front end in React. So let me start from the beginning. I'm going to make a directory and passport.js. Okay. So I'm going to install Express. I'm going to install passport.js. I'm going to documentation and opening this. Okay. So either we can start with this example that they have, or we can just build our own, right? So I'm going to go to this GitHub directory, although we are not going to use this. Okay. So they have example for Google. They have example for Facebook. So they have example for Facebook. They have example for Google, and they have different examples as well. We will just look at uh, this one, username and passport, which is similar to email and password. Okay, so yeah, and if you open this package.json, you will see that in the dependencies they have cookie parser, we don't need debug, we don't need .env, we will need, and some more. Okay, sure, we are going to start with this one. First we will need to initiate uh, npm project. Then let's install passport local. Okay, and also need passport. Okay, so this it says we have to create a new instance of local strategy and pass a verify function as the first argument. So you may not understand it like this. I'm going to build the I'm going to build index. I'm going to start with index.js. Okay, so we need express app. um, express app dot listen 3000. Okay. So with this, our application will start. Right. Now we need to start using passport.js with this. So we also need to have session. So let me install express session with this. Okay. And configure that. Let me know if you don't understand something. I will explain. Right. So we will say app dot use session, and I'm going to copy this one. Okay. So we can start, we can also have .env file where we can store secrets like this, but it's fine, right? For now, it is fine. Now, this we can start using session. So whenever the user logs in, we can store the logged in user details in the user session. Okay. We also need to store some DB related information. So let's start with DB use user dot model dot js and connect database dot js. So I'm going to copy this one and I'm going to change this to passport auth example. Okay. For user, I'm going to copy from here, but I'll change that a little bit. So copy it from here, and this is our user model, right? So we need to have connect database. Then we can start listening. Okay. With this, it should be working now. So node index. Okay. Npm install express. Then we can also use app dot use express dot json and app dot use say express dot static, and some static files can also go here. For example, index dot html. Okay. Passport js like this. Okay. Now we need to have our passport.js set. Give me a second. Mm, okay, so uh, in static give which file? This is the file. Uh, you mean the folder name? Yeah, cool. Hold on. So now what we need to do is we need to start plugging in passport. So we will fetch passport and we will say app.use passport.initialize, right? And we are also going to use passport fashion. Uh, so we are going to say passport fashion like this. Okay. With this, what we can do is we can say I'm going to define first route app.get slash say user who is the logged in user. Okay. Request response, and whoever is the logged in user, we will say uh, request dot session dot passport dot user. Okay, and I'm going to use this so that if passport is present, then only we will read user. So this passport dot session will start having this injecting this passport object on the session. So anything that is related to passport library will be inside passport session, request session, passport object. Okay. So if the user is logged in, then it will be passport dot user. Okay. So we will say return response dot send, and we can say hello and username. So user dot name. Say if user is not present, then it will be something else. Okay, like this. So, but how do we initialize? How do we initialize the user? How do we log in the user? Okay, for that we are going to say I'm going to create a file for login page, which will call the login API, right? So I'm going to add the post request for login, right? So this post request for login will handle the user who is logging in. Okay. Now, instead of writing our own handler, we want passport.js to handle this. Okay. So how do we allow this? How do we say we use passport dot authenticate, just like how this library was showing passport dot authenticate. This is the most important function that this library gives us, and in this we have pass authenticate dot some string, right? So for username or email and password based authentication, we give local, right? We give local, and we say if, and the second parameter we pass is an object, and that has success redirect to we once the user is logged in successfully, which URL should we redirect the user to? So we say user, and if the failure is there, then we want to redirect the user to login. So these must be both get URL, because this is going to be redirected on the browser. Okay, so we need to define these two. I have defined this one. I'm going to define slash login. So, or we can say login.html. So for login.html, I just need to have login .html, or I can create a folder and or I can create a folder and have index.html. So this is, let's say, our login page. Okay, in this we have a form. In this we have input and This has of type email. Okay, and this has of type password. Also have names here, and we have input of type button, or we can say submit. Button of type submit. We say submit. Okay, let me add a break tag. And then on form, we can add some action. Okay, so whenever user goes to login.html, user will see this screen, login.html. Then we will make a post request to login. If the request is successful, we will send the user to this URL. If the login fails, then we will send the user back to login URL. Or we can also, since the user will already be on the login URL, we can also have some other URL where we want to send the user. Okay. So this, sorry, this passport authenticate local comes from uh, a strategy that we are going to define. Okay. So hold on. Now, I'm going to write the logic of strategies where we define this strategy. I'm going to write the logic here. Uh, let's import local strategy. Local strategy means we are using username and password. Okay. So like this. Okay. So we will have passport and we will say local strategy like this. And we will say passport dot use. This is how we are supposed to define how this request will be handled. Okay. So we are saying local and we say new local strategy like this. This is coming from here. Okay, this may be a little complicated for now, how we have been doing things so far, but this is just to give you an idea that we can use this library for a lot of heavy lifting for us, right? So this takes two params. Uh, First one is an object and second is a callback function. So in the first object, we give user, hold on, this new local strategy. We need to, I think we need to have this. This is the class now. Okay. So we say username field, we will say email. And because we are going to submit email and password, so we need to have this and password, right? Password field is just password. Now this is when we send a request to the to this post login, we are defining how will we control how will we handle this. So we have to pass a callback function. In that we will have email and password, right? So first is the object and second is the callback function. So now we can check whether the email and password is correct or not. That's all the duty That's all the thing that we have to do. Rest of the token creation and everything, this library will take care of itself. Cookies and everything, session based details, it will take care of that. Okay, so we just have to do whether the email and password is correct or not. So for now I'm going to use this user object directly here, right? So user dot model, and this will be an async function. So we will say let user is await user dot this user. So okay, I think we need to install mongoose as well, because we are interacting with database. So we say user dot find one, right? And we will find with email. Okay, now we are not using bcrypt or anything to encrypt the password. We can directly check the password if the password is correct, but this user can be null as well. So we have to handle the case where the user is null. Then we return. And how do we tell whether the failure, whether this has failed or not? Okay, so we have to somehow tell passport.js that this has failed, right? Signing up with email or password has. So uh, passport.js will send a function. You can call that function anything, but I'm calling it done. So I'm saying we are done with the with processing, and we say that there is, inside this we pass an error or we pass user. Okay, so we can say that there is an error saying user does not exist, and for user I am passing false, right? That means that this is not successful. Otherwise, if we check the password, right, it is same as the password we are getting here, password that we are getting here. Let's say if this is not correct password, then again we also say return done and new error, user password does not match, and then pass false, right? So this is how this library is expecting us to use this function. So this library is an abstraction, and you just have to handle different scenarios, and rest of the things like preparing a token, handling whether the user is logged in or not logged in this passport in this session, it will handle all of these things itself. Okay, so we just have to in rest of the cases this is going to be correct. So we say no error, and the user object we can pass, right? So I'm going to say user dot to json. Sorry, and user, and I'm going to delete user dot password. Okay, like this, and I'm going to pass the user. This is how we have to use this. Once this is successful, the user will go to this URL. Okay, user will go to this URL. If in these two cases where error occurs, user will go to this URL. Does this make sense? Okay, any questions so far? What we have done is we have defined two routes, one for uh, well, three routes, one for where we show the login screen, second where we send the login request. We will send the login request directly from here. I'm going to write the logic for that. And third, for uh, getting the logged in user. Okay, So first of all, I'm just going to try out whatever we have. Then we will see if something is working or not. Okay, we will see if we are getting email and password correctly or not. Okay, so here in the form, we say method, post, and action, we say login. I think if we do this, this is going to automatically send a post request to login, right? So let's see if we reach this point or not. Okay. Another thing, there is one more thing required, but I'm going to, I just added action to this post, this form. If we submit, then it is going to send a post request to this page, okay, this endpoint, right? So I'm just going to see this, going to login dot html, and we see this. Okay, in the, okay, there is an error. Login session requires session support. Did you mean, did you forget to use express session middleware? So we are supposed to use express session before we use this one, right? That's why it is giving us an error. So let me restart, and this time we will not see an error. Okay, and it says if we submit, then it is going to send a network request. I think it is going to send a network request. Okay, it is sending, but something is not working. Let's send the network request from script, from a script, right? So I'm just going to say, instead of type submit, let's just say button. Okay, so we will have a button with ID login. So document dot find get element by ID. We will say login, and we are going to have an event and all that. No, sorry. What am I doing? This is going to give us login button. Similarly, we can have ID of email, ID of password. So we can have email input, and we can have password input. So when login button, add event listener, click. So we will have email, email input dot value, and password, password input dot value, and we will make a request, right? We will make a fetch request, and we will say it is a login, and method of post, and inside body we will have email and password, right? So this should be sufficient. And see if if we are able to make a post request, right? So this is the login post request. Okay, we will, this is password. We need to stringify this, and inside header we need to add uh, content type header of application JSON. Okay. So whatever response we get, I'm going to await it. And I'm just going to log the result. Okay. So uh, I think we need to event dot prevent this default action. So if you check the logs, in this we are getting email and password. Okay. So I'm going to submit this and I'll show you, and I'll show you what are we getting in the logs, right? So when I click, it says user does not exist. So we are getting the error network request. We are getting the error. And if you look at this preview, this is the error we are getting, right? And look at this 500 internal server error. So this is all happening because of error we are throwing here. Okay. Because of this. Cool. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and add this user. I'm just going to open Mongo SH, use passport auth example. So collections db.users dot insert one, and in this let's add name to ABC. This user password is password. Hold on. Okay. If you do this and send again, then you will see if this request gets successful, then user will be redirected to some other page, which was user. Okay. Where we are sending the hello user data. So if this gets successful, hold on. This time we get failed to serialize user into session. So this is a good, this is a different error, and I know why we are getting this error, and I deliberately missed that step. There is one more step that we need to do before we can start using passport, and we need to say passport dot serialize user and deserialize user. These are two functions that we have to uh, call so that we can tell passport how to serialize and deserialize these users. So these are nothing but say user and done function. There are these two things. So it will send us the user and it will send us the done function. So we will do nothing but we will say user. And similarly, we can use the same callback here. Okay. With this, we are done with how to use passport.js locally. So if I reload and submit, then you will see that we get no preview, but this redirection happened. Okay, 302 means redirect. So 302 means redirect. We were redirected to slash user API. And if you look at slash user API, we are getting hello ABC. Okay, does that make sense? Let's also try to do this without the action, without this. So I will say type submit, and in the form is a method post, and action say login, right? If we do this, then I think it is going to send a login request, and it is going to work like this. Okay, the user route is actually, this browser is not redirected, but we are getting this login request that we are sending. Let me reload this page and see if redirection works. Okay, we are getting login. We are redirected to login.html. For this, something does not seem to be working. I think, hold on, let me check. Are we getting a request when I submit? The request is not coming. So for some reason, we have to depend on this one. Okay, so reload this. Type is button only. Okay, but if I manually go to slash user, you will see I'm getting hello ABC. But if I remove these cookies, if I remove these cookies and reload, you will see I'm getting hello user. So I can go to login.html and submit this and go to user, then you will see that we are getting logged in user. Okay. The user API is getting is followed basically. Here if you see slash user, it is able to follow this, but it is happening in a network request. Basically, if we are able to make this form working, we are able to make post request working from here, then it will be redirected. But I think it is not. Let's try if we can redirect to user.html page and change this to user.html. Not sure if this is going to work. No, still not working. This request is coming in network tab, but it is not replacing the location. Okay. Yeah. For this, we'll have to do a little bit debugging. I think if we do, for now, we can forget about that. Okay. So this is local strategy. We can also use GitHub strategy with passport.js. I'm not going to go into too much trouble for that. I'm just going to show you how you can start, how you can do that on your own. So you have to start with creating a new strategy, just like we created a local strategy. You have to create a GitHub strategy. Okay, and this is why this library on their page has uh, this page for different strategies. Okay, so in this we have GitHub. So we will install this one, right? We will install this one, and I'll tell you how to use this. Mm, Let me remove this. Okay, so we will import this first. passport GitHub, and this has a strategy. Take this as GitHub strategy, right? Then we need to define how to use GitHub strategy, right? So passport dot use new GitHub strategy, and it takes a few arguments, like it takes client ID. So whatever client ID you have, you can add here. So I'm just going to give a random client ID and client password. So these client ID and client passwords we can use. I already have them in my code in this readme file. So I'm going to delete these anyway. That's fine. Okay, so this client ID and client secret, like this. So after that, you can say what is the callback URL. Okay, so callback URL also you have to give, and you can say we had localhost 3000, and we had uh, GitHub sign in as our callback URL, right? And pass request to callback true, right? After that, we can pass another function which will start handling this request, like this. So we will have request, we will have access token, and we will have refresh token. Mm, okay. And we will have profile data. And then we will have done function. Access token, refresh token, we don't really need to use. We only need to use whatever profile we are getting. Okay. So we do the handling part, whether this is the first time or the user has already logged in using GitHub. So we say let user is await. So this is going to be an async function, await user dot find one, and we will say GitHub username profile dot uh, login. Okay, this is the same object that we were getting, but this time we don't have to make all the GitHub API calls, because we are passing GitHub client ID and client password to this library. It will do those calls to fetch the user details, to first change the access code with the access token, and then fetch the profile details with that access token. Okay. So with this, if the user does not exist, and sign in method of GitHub, if the user does not exist, then we can say return done, like all of these. We don't have to, we can easily just create the user, right? Here we can easily create the user, because we know user is coming from GitHub, so user is a valid user. Create a user. We say GitHub username is profile dot login. Sign in method is GitHub. Name is profile dot name. Email is profile dot email. Image is profile dot, I think it was avatar URL. Let me check here what we had. Are you guys able to follow me? What we are doing? Um, Avatar URL. Yes. Okay. So this time what we are doing is we are telling that instead of writing all that code of creating access to creating GitHub creating JWT tokens, calling the GitHub APIs, all these things, all this heavy lifting, we are asking Passport to take care of that. And Passport is also storing which user is logged in user on this session. Okay. So all of this thing, we don't have to create access token. We don't have to create auth middleware. All of these things are handled by Passport itself, right? Like with these middlewares. Okay. Once this is done, we can say, uh, what is key in local method? Where is that? Where are we using key? You can use anything if they ask you to implement authentication. If you want to implement using Passport, you can implement using Passport. App dot use session. You mean this secret key? This is the secret with which uh, tokens are generated. Cookie token is generated. Okay. Yeah. So with this, we can create the user and then we can say done null user. Okay. But if let's say there is some error here, let's say if profile we are not able to get profile, then we can say return done new error, some error. Okay. Like this, we can handle. Okay. So this is how we define the strategy. But how do we initiate the login, right? How do we initiate the login? And for this, we need to do Passport. We need to define an endpoint, right? We need to define a GitHub endpoint. So we say, let's say auth, and this is going to be uh, get, and we will create a link on the UI saying login with GitHub. Then we will go to the GitHub consent screen, and the the GitHub will send us back to GitHub sign-in page, right? So we have to define GitHub dot authenticate with GitHub. Okay. And on failure redirect, we can we can give it failure redirect, we can give it login page. And yeah. Okay. So we will try this. We will go to login page, login.html, and we will add a button here saying login with GitHub, right? In this page, we will add a button. That button is going to be this this one. Okay. So if I go to this, the GitHub will send me back to this GitHub sign in. and then this API will start working, right? This API will start working, GitHub sign in. But it says failed to obtain access token. Now this library is trying to get access token, but it failed to do so. Now we need to check why did it fail. Let's see if everything is working fine. Hmm. Fail to obtain access token. We can check this. Or passport GitHub too. We can check this. So there seems to be some issue. Many people are facing this issue. They have also given some solution. Internet. Okay. I'm not going to follow this one, but there is some issue with this library, it seems. Right? But this is how you're supposed to work with GitHub. Okay. You can also add more strategies like that, and it will client ID will not expire. Client ID and client password, they are not supposed to be expire. This code, this code is supposed to be used by this. There are two GitHub strategies. We use GitHub too. Yes, this is the latest one. Hmm. I mean, we don't have time to go into the depth for this, but let me see. Instead of using our own, we are routing ourselves. I think there is a way to route /auth /GitHub, and we say GitHub dot authenticate GitHub uh, authenticate dot GitHub. Mm, and let's pass nothing here. Here we say slash auth GitHub. Let's try out this one. Okay. So it will take us to /auth /GitHub, and this URL is defined here. Okay. This will initiate the GitHub login. We can also go to the we can also look at this one, this documentation. So passport.use, we are using it like this, which is fine. They have defined a callback URL. We have defined some other URL, which is fine. And we are getting access token, refresh. We are getting, okay, we are getting access token, refresh token, profile, and done. Cool. Then we have passport.authenticate to initialize GitHub. So we can ask for user email as well. We don't want to do that. It's fine. Or let's try with this. Mm. And we have this callback URL, and our callback URL is this one, a little different, but this is fine. So also pass third function, which will redirect the user to say user. Okay. And yeah, with this, let's try out this one. We will go to GitHub. Now this time it is asking for email address as well. Okay, so we are seeing it is requesting additional permissions. That's why we are seeing this consent screen. If I authorize, it will take me back to the callback URL, and still seeing this error. Maybe this access token, this client password, is it correct? This seems to be correct. Anyway, this is what we have to do for GitHub strategy. Failed to redirect, defined twice. This is for GitHub failure, and this is for uh, normal local failure. Okay, this is successful redirection. So this is how you're supposed to use passport.js. I still prefer this one. Uh, I still prefer controlling everything on our own, because JWT is much more better than session-based authentication. Okay, that's why I don't use passport.js. And you also get to learn how internally things are working in export passport.js and cookies and sessions. You don't get to see a lot of internal working. Okay, but still you can refer to this one for implementing passport.js authentication using passport.js. For some reason where this is not working. Anyway, mm, there is this problem. Never mind. The you can check this out. You can search for errors. This guy has implemented similar things. Corporate proxy, and then there is some issue. Maybe you will not be able to face this issue using passport.js in a web app behind a corporate firewall. Okay, try this on your own. Maybe you will not get this error. But yeah, okay, cool. With this, we are going to we are done with almost everything that you need to know on backend side. We can start working on adding new features to the backend, so that we have a few more APIs to implement. For example, in this, we are going to we are going to work with this one, and uh, in this we can implement few more APIs. Currently, we have only two APIs to create to get all the posts and to add a post. We can add APIs to uh, get a single post and so on. Implementing passport is small, yes, taking less effort than JWT, but for uh, for people who don't know what is happening under the hood, it is a little mysterious as well. You don't get to understand what is happening under the hood, so you will not understand clearly what this library is doing for you. Okay. Anyway, so we can start by adding few more few more endpoints. For example, passport router dot get post by a single ID. So we don't need auth middleware here. Anybody can get the post. So async request response. So let's use try catch block. And in this, we'll create a post. Request dot params. Instead of add post, we will have async function get post with ID. Uh, Post router for getting one ID. This route is for getting post by ID. Okay. So wait a second. This post model should be present over here. Okay. So I think it is not loading suggestions because I have not installed dependencies. Find by ID. If there is post, if there is no post, we will throw an error. Otherwise, we will say return post, right? Inside get post, we will get the post like this. Okay. So this is how we can get a single post. And the reason why we are creating a separate route for this is so that we can call this route when we are on the post screen, right? When we are on a single post screen, right? Uh, we will create a dedicated screen for that. And similarly, we can start with some comments route as well. Comment dot routes dot js, and we can define a router. Let's call this comment router. So why I am working on this for now, so that we can start, we can complete the, we can add more routes here, so that we will call these routes from front end that we are going to create. Okay. So comment route dot get. So with post ID, we want to fetch all the post on a single comment. So I'm going to create a controller for this. Get comments by post ID. So we will fetch all the comments. I want to use this model here. This one, find, and here we are going to say post dot id is post id, like this. We will find all the comments and we will return the comments. Okay. Get comments by post id, and we will also add function add comment for post. Okay. In this we will need content and post id and user as well, right? So user will be coming from authentication middleware. We will create a comment saying await. First we want to get the post. Dot find by id. If the post is not there, then we have to say post does not exist. Otherwise we can create a comment dot create, and we will say content. We will say post. Post will have id. So coming to this one, this will have post id and title. Okay, and it will also have user. So it should be post dot post id. So user, for user ID we will have user dot underscore ID, and for name we will have user dot name, user dot image, post dot underscore ID, post dot title, like this. We will return the comment. Okay. Should be used like this. So we will export this as well, and now we can start using these two. Okay, I'm going to copy this try catch block. Let me use this one. In this we will have content and post id. Okay, this is going to be async. Okay, this is for getting. So we will get request dot params post id, comments, get comments by post id, like this, post id. So we will pass all the comments here, right? Similarly we can add post, one post route to add the post for to add comments for a given post id. So we will make it mandatory here. and we will look for uh, content in request body. Okay, like this, and we will say add comment for post, and we will pass some data. So what do we need to pass? We will need to pass content. We will need to pass post ID, and we need to pass user, where the user is going to be from auth middleware. Okay, so request dot user is the user. Okay, and this is going to add the comment. We will send this comment in the response. Okay, so this is how you create comment routes. Clear? Any doubts so far? Anybody has any questions? Okay. Hmm. So I guess we can start working on our front end. I'm just going to, uh, I already have created some components in previous batches. So I want to use those components, right? And I will use them. Uh, Let me just make a directory. So blog client, and I'm going to say create React app blog client. So while this is working, I'm going to show you that some of the components that we will need. Hmm, in the PC, I have this client folder, and in the client, this is React application. So I'll probably copy some code over from this library, sorry, from this React app. So first I'm going to copy all these dependencies. Let it first complete. It is going to take some time. It is installing all these dependencies. Hmm. I think it's better if I just download this, then extract it somewhere. We are going to build it, but I need some components which I have created, UI components. If I do that from start, then it is going to take some time. Or I think we can open online as well. Code, we can clone it, but mm, I think if I do this, no, VS Code. Okay, VS Code online. There is a way to open VS Code. in this, I can open any repository for browsing. Yeah. Okay. Open recent. If I give it this one, open repository. Mm, okay. Well, it is okay. Yeah, I have to pass this URL and I'll have to sign into this. This should not be. This should not be required, but okay. While this is still loading, that's why I wanted to do this outside of class. So, but I guess we have enough time. So, yeah. Okay. So I have this client folder. Inside this, I have this React application. And here I have some images. Mm, The most important part is the auth context that we are going to use. Okay. And also I have created a separate folder for APIs, which we are going to copy from, and some components. So for example, this layout component I'm going to use, and okay, this did not work. Hmm, Let me copy this and paste it here. Not able to paste. Fine. You know what? I'll do this later. I'll take questions if you have any questions. Otherwise, we will have enough time to do the PSC tomorrow. Okay. Let's not waste your time. So whatever time we have left, you can spend that time going through the code or asking me questions, right? I'm not going to waste your time, so that I will do whatever is required to set up the front end, and I will walk you through that, right? Anybody has any questions? Do you have any? Nobody has any questions? Were you able to understand authentication flow? We have discussed using JWT tokens. Okay, no questions from you. We have covered JWT tokens and how to create JWT tokens, how to check password using bcrypt.js, and how to use OAuth from GitHub, right? All of these things are clear or not? There is a question, when we create a full stack app, will both of them run on the same URL? What do you mean do you mean both of them by backend and frontend? No, they will run on different URLs. Backend will run separately, front end will run separately. But once we are done with the front end, we will build the front end and we will serve the front end with backend, with our backend. Okay. But at the time of development, we will run them on different URLs. Okay. Any other questions? Right. I guess people need to go through the last two lectures. They don't have any questions right now. So we have some time left, but it's fine. I am ending the lecture right now. You can go through the lecture, last two lectures, and if you have any questions, you can ask tomorrow. Okay. Can I, can Passport JS is a complete replacement for authentication? Yes, you can use Passport JS as a complete authentication. For me, Passport JS is not working because of some restriction. I think some firewall restriction is there. But try to run this on your machine. This is using session-based storage, which is not preferred. Session-based method for storing logged in user details, which is not preferred. But still, if you want to use Passport.js, and if you see some code base where Passport.js is getting used, you will be able to understand how it is working. Okay. So it can completely replace our technique, the one that we have implemented from scratch. And we have a lot of control over there. Here we don't have, we just have to work with sessions, express sessions. Otherwise, it will not work. Okay. No, I think everyday students, we have around 30 students only. Anyway, I guess for this lecture, there are no other questions, right? Cool. All right. Okay, then I'm stopping the recording and I'll see you folks in the next class. All right. Please come prepared with any questions you have and go through the last two lectures because they are very, very important lectures. And today's lecture is also important, but you can skip Passport.js uh, unless you have to use it. But okay, last two or three lectures, they are very important, and go through those lectures so that we can start working with full stack application that we are going to build. Okay.